The Chosen has stolen our hearts, right? But let's be honest, there's something that keeps us even more hooked than the powerful storytelling and unforgettable performances. It's the cast. Their on-screen chemistry is undeniable, but what about off-screen? Who are the real-life partners of these incredible actors? Well, buckle up because we're about to dive into the hidden world of the Chosen cast's love lives. From surprising twists to heartwarming stories, you won't believe the connections we're about to uncover. Ready to have your mind blown? Let's go. When it comes to Jonathan Roumie, or as we call him in the fandom, our Jesus, it's impossible to ignore the deep, spiritual energy he brings to his role. The actor's portrayal of Jesus in The Chosen has had such an emotional impact that it's easy to forget he's not actually walking on water, though it feels like he is. His devotion to his faith shines through in every scene, making us wonder about the man behind the character. But here's the twist: Jonathan Roumie, at 50 years old, is completely single. And no, it's not because of a lack of options or loneliness. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In interviews, Jonathan has been open about how he surrendered his personal life to God's will, saying, "If marriage isn't his plan, it'll happen when the time is right." This level of faith is something we can't help but admire. It's not about waiting for someone perfect to come along, it's about trusting in a divine plan. Now, how many of us could show that kind of patience and trust? Drop a cross emoji if you think Jonathan's strength and faith are something to aspire to. While we can't help but feel intrigued by the idea of Jonathan being in a relationship, there's no one by his side, at least, none that we know of. There are no tabloid rumors, no mysterious woman sightings, just pure devotion to his craft and his faith. But here's what makes it even more fascinating. Jonathan's deep commitment to his spiritual life makes him one of the most grounded cast members. It leaves us wondering if there's someone special out there waiting for him when the time is right. But for now, we can only admire him from afar, respecting the man he is both on screen and off. Isn't it fascinating how he remains so dedicated to his spiritual journey, not letting the pressures of fame or relationships interfere? Maybe that's why his portrayal of Jesus resonates so deeply with viewers. There's an authenticity to it, and it all comes from his personal belief. He's not acting, he's living his faith, and we get to watch the magic unfold. Stay tuned because, trust me, Jonathan's journey isn't the only one we're about to explore. The love lives of the cast are as complex and intriguing as their performances, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Keep watching as we dive deeper into the mystery of the Chosen cast's real-life partners. When you think of Shahar Isaac, you probably picture the passionate, fiery Simon Peter, right? The character's intensity, loyalty, and, let's face it, impulsiveness, make him one of the most fascinating figures in The Chosen. But here's the kicker: when it comes to Shahar Isaac's real life, he's a complete mystery. No, really. This man could give Sherlock Holmes a run for his money. Unlike his on-screen counterpart, whose personal life seems to be an open book, at least in the eyes of the fans, Shahar has managed to keep his love life as elusive as a hidden treasure. I mean, I went full detective mode on this guy, trust me, you don't want to know how deep I went with my research. But guess what? I came up with nothing. No tagged photos, no rumors, no pap shots at cafes with mysterious women, absolutely nothing. And you know what? That only adds to the intrigue. The more Shahar keeps quiet about his personal life, the more curious we get. It's like he's mastered the art of keeping things under wraps while still being one of the most talked about cast members. And honestly, that makes us even more obsessed with him. Because let's face it, the chemistry between him and Eden on the show? Fire. When they're on screen together, you can practically feel the heat. Their interactions are electric, and the emotions run so deep that it's impossible not to imagine that there's something real behind it. But don't get too excited. Both Shahar and his co-star, the talented Elizabeth Tabish, who plays Mary Magdalene, have made it crystal clear that what we see on screen is nothing more than great acting. They've both said that their incredible chemistry is purely professional and part of their craft. But, who are we kidding? When two people have that much on-screen intensity, it's hard not to wish that maybe, just maybe, there's something more off-screen. Now, I'm not saying Shahar is hiding a secret relationship, but come on, the way he keeps everything so private. It almost feels like he's giving us just enough to keep us hooked. We know nothing about his love life, but that only fuels the fire of curiosity. And let's not ignore the fact that many fans secretly hope that the stunning on-screen connection between Shahar and Eden is more than just an act. So, the question remains, is there a hidden romance in Shahar Isaac's life, or is he just a master at keeping us guessing? The plot thickens, and as we dive deeper into the mysteries of the chosen cast, one thing's for sure, nothing is as it seems. When you think of Mary Magdalene in The Chosen, Elizabeth Tabish immediately comes to mind. Her portrayal of the beloved biblical figure is nothing short of mesmerizing. It's poetic, graceful, and deeply emotional. She doesn't just play the role, she becomes Mary Magdalene. There's a vulnerability and depth to her performance that leaves you wondering, who is this woman off-screen? What's her real life like, especially when it comes to love? Well, here's a sweet surprise. Elizabeth's love story is one that's already been written, and it's just as beautiful as you'd hope. In 2022, Elizabeth married the love of her life, and while she's kept her partner's identity private, she hasn't held back from sharing how much their relationship means to her. If you followed her social media at all, you know that she's posted a few stunning, dreamy photos from their wedding, pictures that truly feel like a glimpse into a fairy tale. But there's one post in particular that got to me. She shared this heartfelt message, being with someone who truly understands your soul. It's a gift I don't take for granted. And just like that, we were all melting. Now, let's be real for a second. The idea of Mary Magdalene, a character we've come to know as strong yet tender, experiencing love in the real world feels like the perfect parallel. In many ways, Elizabeth has embodied the same qualities off-screen: quiet strength, deep connection, and an appreciation for love that's genuine and simple. It's refreshing to see someone so grounded in their personal life, especially when the spotlight can easily become overwhelming. But here's what I love most about Elizabeth's love life: she's chosen to live it outside the public eye. There's no flashy display of affection for the cameras, no constant updates about her relationship. Instead, she's created her own little world of peace and fulfillment, and we get to catch glimpses of it in her rare posts. Her story feels like a personal, intimate one that's meant to be cherished rather than shared endlessly. It's also clear that Elizabeth's creative soul finds joy in more than just acting. Off-screen, she's deeply into writing, art, and spending time in nature. It's a life that allows her to nurture her own spirit while building a quiet, beautiful partnership with her husband. And honestly, doesn't that just make her character's role as Mary Magdalene even more inspiring? A woman who once experienced hardship and transformation now lives a life full of love and understanding, a love that's quiet, steady, and as beautiful as her on-screen portrayal. But don't get too comfortable, because as we move forward, you'll find that the love lives of the chosen cast don't always follow such peaceful paths. Some of the relationships we're about to uncover are more complex than we ever imagined. Stick around, because the next actor's love life is about to get real interesting. When you think about Paris Patel, it's impossible to ignore the sheer depth and vulnerability he brings to his portrayal of Matthew, the tax collector, in The Chosen. His Matthew is not just a character, he's a man who's constantly reflecting, questioning, and grappling with his faith and his past. Paris doesn't just act, he breathes life into Matthew in a way that feels raw, real, and deeply human. But, as much as we all love his portrayal, there's one thing we can't stop wondering about: what is Paris's love life like off-screen? Here's the thing, you won't find Paris plastering photos of his love interests all over Instagram. In fact, Paris's approach to his personal life is just as introspective as his on-screen persona. He's very private, and for the most part, he's kept his relationships out of the public eye. But that doesn't mean there aren't some clues here and there that give us a peek into his world. The man is thoughtful, and from what we've gathered, he's very much focused on personal growth before jumping into romance. Paris once shared in an interview, "This role really pushed me to think about vulnerability and connection. It made me reflect on my own relationships, or the lack thereof. You can tell that Paris isn't rushing into anything. He's giving himself space to grow, to understand who he is, and what love means to him before he opens up to another person. There's a level of self-awareness here that is rare, especially in an industry where so many people rush into relationships for the wrong reasons. And honestly, I respect that. A man who takes the time to truly understand himself before diving into love is a man worth rooting for. But let's talk about the chemistry between Paris's Matthew and Mary in The Chosen. It's electric. When they're on screen together, there's a depth to their connection that almost feels like it's spilling over into real life. The way Paris and Elizabeth Tabish, who plays Mary Magdalene, interact on screen makes you wonder, could there be something more happening off screen, too? We can't help but ship them. In fact, many fans have speculated that the chemistry we see on screen is more than just good acting. But, as much as we might wish it were true, both Paris and Elizabeth have been very clear that it's all part of their craft. There's no romance here, just incredible acting. Still, who's to say that the on-screen connection doesn't come from somewhere real? The emotional depth between Paris and Elizabeth feels too strong to be entirely fictional. We can't help but dream of a behind-the-scenes romance, even if it's just a fantasy. But here's what I love most about Paris: even though we can't peek into his personal life, it's clear that whatever path he chooses when it comes to love, it will be grounded in understanding and respect. Paris doesn't need to rush, and neither do we. He's shown us that love, like faith, is a journey, not a destination. Now, let's move on to someone whose love life isn't as introspective, but just as interesting. Noah James, the man who plays Simon's sensitive brother, Andrew, has a partnership that's as strong and steady as they come. But trust me, what's coming next will make you look at Andrew and Noah through a whole new lens. Stay tuned. If you've been following The Chosen for any length of time, you're already familiar with Noah James's portrayal of Andrew, Simon's sensitive and protective older brother. Andrew's character is one of those figures who, though often overshadowed by his more outspoken brother, brings a kind of quiet strength and heart to the story. He's the kind of guy who's always trying to hold things together, to keep the peace. But what about Noah James off-screen? Is he as grounded and committed to his own relationships as his character is? Well, here's the heartwarming twist: Noah James is happily married, and from what we can tell, his relationship is one of the most solid and loving partnerships in the cast. But here's the thing: Noah doesn't overshare. He's a man of few words when it comes to his personal life. Unlike some other actors who might post a million pictures about their relationships or shout from the rooftops about their love life, Noah keeps things private, and there's something incredibly refreshing about that. From time to time, though, he'll drop little gems on social media, a sweet photo with his wife or a heartfelt comment about how much he appreciates her support. In one interview, he shared, "Having someone who supports this crazy journey, long filming hours, emotional roles is something I'm incredibly grateful for. And I don't know about you, but when I read that, it hit me right in the feels." There's something so real about this kind of gratitude, especially in an industry where relationships are often tested by fame, distance, and the pressures of public life. But it's not just what he says, it's also how he lives his life. Noah and his wife seem to have a beautiful balance. They're not just partners in marriage, but in life. They've shared moments from concerts, festivals, and other outings on their social media, showcasing how much they enjoy being together and living life to the fullest. Their connection is built on shared experiences and mutual support, and it's clear that Noah has found someone who truly gets him. It's also worth noting that Noah's love life has been somewhat of a topic of discussion outside of the show, too. His wedding, in particular, was even featured in a few magazines, and from the photos, it's easy to see just how special the day was. But what I love most is that even with the occasional spotlight on their relationship, Noah and his wife have remained grounded. They've stayed focused on what truly matters, supporting each other and living a life full of love and appreciation. So while Andrew's on-screen relationship with his brother Simon is filled with emotional complexity and moments of tension, Noah's off-screen partnership nothing short of inspiring. His love story is a reminder that real love is built on trust, support, and mutual understanding. And honestly, it makes me admire Noah James even more. With all of these incredible love stories we've uncovered, one thing is clear: the cast of The Chosen is filled with people who know what it means to love deeply and authentically. From Jonathan's quiet faith, Shahar's mysterious allure, Elizabeth's poetic romance, Paris's introspective journey, to Noah's solid partnership, these actors are more than just characters on screen. They're people whose love lives deserve just as much attention as their performances. So, what do you think? Are there any surprises in here that you weren't expecting? Let me know in the comments. And as always, keep an eye out for more behind-the-scenes scoops from the world of The Chosen. You never know what secrets we might uncover next.